Hello, and thank you for joining us. In this presentation, we are going to be talking about setting up a Greenfield Hybrid Cloud environment. Now you may be wondering, why should I watch this video? Well, here are a couple of questions to help you get to that answer. 1. Do you want to be able to better understand the components that make up a hybrid cloud? 2. Are you trying to decide between setting up a new Greenfield environment versus bolting cloud technologies onto your existing environment? 3. Are you looking for a decision-making methodology for making smart hybrid cloud choices? If you answered yes to these questions, it probably makes sense to watch this video. So let's get started. In today's IT landscape, the word cloud is so overused, it's probably best to define some terms. For this discussion, we will use the phrase private cloud to describe platforms existing within your corporate data center or equipment owned by you that is hosted in another facility. Public cloud will be used for platforms owned by entities other than your organization, and hybrid cloud will be used to describe the framework by which public and private clouds can be connected. Before we get into specific products, let's take a look at the components that make up a solid hybrid cloud architecture. The centerpiece of a hybrid cloud is the common framework. Into this framework will connect your private cloud or clouds, your public cloud or clouds, your self-service management, including ticketing, your security components, data protection components, and logging. Although it's possible to bolt on hybrid components to your existing brownfields environment, we have found that the most successful cloud initiatives deploy into a greenfield environment. This approach allows for greater flexibility in your architecture and allows you to make changes throughout the development process that can be cumbersome when interfacing with existing production equipment. Although we have solutions for each of these components, in this video, we will discuss an example framework focused on combining Cisco HyperFlex for the private cloud, Amazon Web Services for the public cloud, and Red Hat CloudForms as the common framework. Note that these technologies are not exclusive, and the whole point of deploying an open framework is to allow for flexibility in the clouds you connect, up to and including having multiple internal and external providers connected to your environment. In a separate video, we discussed traditional hardware versus converged or hyper-converged offerings, but for the purposes of this example, we have selected Cisco HyperFlex. The specific workload you have targeted will drive many of your infrastructure decisions, but Cisco HyperFlex is an architecture that provides a great baseline of performance for virtualized workloads. Since HyperFlex is a hyper-converged infrastructure, it contains all of the necessary components of compute, memory, network, storage, and management, all contained within a single offering. It is highly scalable, or lightly scalable if your environment is more modest, and introduces technologies such as software-defined storage with compression and deduplication, which can be a significant money saver. The specific parts that make up a HyperFlex are a pair of high-speed fabric interconnects, between 3 and 16 rack and potentially blade servers in a cluster, the HX Data Platform software itself, which provides storage abstraction, and a single-point management interface. As with the private cloud, you may already have some workload running in AWS, Azure, Google, or some other provider, but for the purposes of this example, we are sticking with AWS. Amazon is one of the more mature cloud providers, and has a rich set of networking and other capabilities that you can rely on for the public components of your Greenfield hybrid environment. In this particular case, we're going to use Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC, which is an environment that has a VPN corridor into your data center network, but does not have its own internet-facing capabilities. This will allow you to run your internal workloads out on the public cloud without exposing them. The most important component of a hybrid cloud is the common framework that ties your various platforms together. There are several great offerings in this space, but one of our favorites has to be Red Hat CloudForms. CloudForms is built on 4 major tenets. The primary one is unified hybrid management, which allows for the cross-platform functionality we've been discussing in this video. The others are service automation, which will allow you to control the specific workloads you'll be delivering, operational visibility, which is particularly important in the public cloud as it can control lifecycle management, and policy and compliance, which will allow your hybrid cloud to interface with your monitoring environment. Once you have deployed CloudForms and connected your providers, in this case the VMware environment running on the HyperFlex is one provider, and AWS is a second, you'll be able to deploy workloads into them. This deployment can be started from the CloudForms interface itself, although many companies have their own web interface for their users, or a catalog system such as ServiceNow to kick off the workflow. A user will select a catalog item they have permissions for, in this case a Red Hat 7 server. They'll be asked for whatever custom information you have chosen to make variable, in this example the naming, number of CPUs, and memory of the virtual machine. You can also set up services bundles. In this particular case, a user ordering this bundle will have a database server, middleware server, and web server provisioned and connected to each other. Whether a single server or a bundle, the workload then goes through an approval process. You can set the workload to auto-approve, in which case the provisioning starts immediately, or you can set the workflow to require permission, in which case an email is sent to the designated approver. Once approved, the workflow will then be deployed onto the provider that is selected. This provider can be forced into the workflow, the end user can be given the option at the time of creation, or CloudForms can use a metric, such as the cluster that is least utilized or lowest cost, in which to deploy the VM or container. So what did we see? We saw the various components of a hybrid cloud strategy, we saw some of the benefits of a new greenfield environment, and we saw some of the decisions that need to be evaluated in order to make smart hybrid cloud choices. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and feel free to reach out to us so we can help you like we help our other clients.